Hey everybody, raise your hands if you can hear me. Raise your hands if I'm too loud. How's that? Is that better? Alright. Sweet. My name is Lainey. I'm going to be your driver and guide for the next 25 minutes. Welcome to the Africa Tram, everybody. Before we get too far into it though, we got to do a couple safety things. Can everybody jiggle their doors on either side of the tram? Thank you. Those are latched and not locked and will not support your weight, so please don't put any pressure on those. Of everybody above your heads, you'll be able to see 2 yellow strips on either side of the roof. Those are our medical emergency strips. So if you yourself or someone around you is experiencing a medical emergency, press those strips. Everyone with me up front, you don't have any, good luck. Just kidding, just wave your hands or tap on the glass and I'll help you as well. All of everybody stay seated until the ride comes to a complete stop. But once I get, then you can stand up once I've stopped, but once I get going, I'll have everybody sit back down. I'll have everybody keep their voices to a minimum and silence your devices. We don't want to disrupt any of the wildlife that we're visiting today. Last but not least, if we drop any items out of the tram, please don't press those medical emergency strips. That's not a medical emergency, so I cannot stop. Just keep an eye out of where you dropped them, and we'll do our best to get those back to you by the end of the day. Now that safety's out of the way, I'll have everybody look on the right-hand side of the tram, and we'll be able to see some flamingos. They might look a little bit different than what you'd expect for a flamingo. You kind of expect that rich pink color. These are greater flamingos. They live in salt flats where there's not much coverage, and so it's really beneficial to have that light coloring. It reflects the sun and helps them stay a little bit cooler. We are now entering one of the 2 front doors of the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, the other one being the San Diego Zoo and Balboa Park. I want to thank everybody for being here today. When you come into the tram, buying a snack, piece of merchandise, we're able to work on all the conservation efforts that we focus on all around the world. The Wildlife Alliance focuses specifically on 8 conservation hubs. Those simply are just places we focus the majority of our conservation efforts on. We're going to be visiting 3 of those hubs today: the African forest, the African savanna, and the Southwest hub. On the right-hand side, we'll be able to see a native species here in San Diego County. We'll be able to see quite a few deer. These are a mule deer. They're the California mule deer. They're not a part of our collection. We don't take care of them. However, they do have free reign. There's not a ton we can do about them. They're harmless. So they just kind of live here and, raise their babies. Usually there's babies running everywhere, but it's getting to winter time, so they're not year round as much. Let's see. The safari park was founded in 1969 by Dr. Charles Schroeder. He was a veterinarian at the zoo at the time. He envisioned a place where multiple species can coexist amongst each other in a naturalistic environment. In 1972, we decided to open up to the public, and I've been here ever since. We recently celebrated our 50th anniversary in 2022. As we go along our tour today, we're going to be discussing a lot of adaptations that the wildlife we're visiting have. We're going to be looking at some camouflage, interspecies communication, communication with their predators, and for many of the individuals, adaptations for heat. A lot of them we'll be visiting today live in savannas, where it's very beneficial to have some adaptations to keep themselves nice and cool. Coming up on the right-hand side of the tram, we'll be able to see our bird marsh. There's quite a few species of birds coexisting amongst each other in this habitat. There are many pelicans. There are 2 species specifically in here. We've got the great white pelican, which is that one that's bright white and has that yellow neck. And then there's the Dalmatian pelican, and they have more of an orange color, and then they have some of the speckling. There are also some vultures in there and some African crown cranes. It appears that everybody's kind of in the left-hand corner. So I'll scoot up a little bit further, maybe we can get a peek at them. Not only are those bird species coexisting amongst each other, all of the species on the left-hand side of the tram are as well. For instance, there's lots of buffalo and antelope species. However, the first antelope species that we're going to see today is going to be on the right-hand side of the tram. They're those fairly large white antelope with those spiralized horns. As I mentioned, there's a lot of adaptations for heat. This one's pretty similar to the greater flamingo that we saw at the beginning. They have that bright white coloration to help themselves stay cool. It's going to reflect the light. Because they live in savannas and there isn't much coverage, that's going to help reflect the light, rather than if they had that a really nice dark coating that would definitely absorb it and keep them really hot. They have the ability to have an internal body temperature of around 115 degrees Fahrenheit. On the left-hand side of the tram, we'll be able to see our savanna. First, the closest species that we're seeing right now is called the gemsbok, or that lavender-colored antelope. They've got quite a few adaptations for communicating. For instance, they have lots of stripes and markings on their face. For an example, on the top of their head they have a black patch that helps elongate the appearance of their horns. They also have some white stripes on the front of their faces that protect their eyes, as that's the most vulnerable part of their body. They also have some false eyes on their ears. They're just spots on their ears. And one of the cool ones, you can see that they have like white socks on their legs. On their back ones, you can also see some of that black striping as well. Those act as what are called follow me marks. You can kind of imagine it as like, if you've ever been to Disneyland, all those families have matching t-shirts. It's kind of similar concept. They see those markings / t-shirts and they know to go that way. A little bit further up in the center, in that grassy area near that big branch, we will see a dark colored antelope with long horns. Both the males and females have horns, as they both are competing for the same resources. However, in the very back, right next to the branch, we'll be able to see one that's a little bit larger and darker and has much longer horns. That is the male. He has that coloring and those longer horns because he wants to look nice and handsome for the ladies. Those horns and that dark coloring shows that he's older. He's been able to defend himself and feed himself successfully. Those are really highly desirable traits that the females are looking for when they're choosing a male to breed with. We shall keep moving though. You might be able to notice on all the trees in the savanna, the underside of their canopies are flat. You would kind of expect it to be from a tree trimmer or a landscaper, but in fact it is from our giraffes. The giraffes, one of their many nicknames, are the tree trimmers of the savanna. They have the ability to grow up to about 16 feet, which is the reason why those trees are flat where they are. That's about as high as they can reach. Towards the center, if we keep looking at the grass on the left-hand side, we can see two little ones laying down. Those are our two youngsters. They're only about 4 to 5, probably like 4-ish months at this point. We've got the female on the left, she's a little bit smaller, and her half-brother on the right is the male, and they were born within a week of each other. Within their first week of life, the first like 2 weeks of life, they already grew a foot. When they're born, they are 6 feet tall. The reasoning behind that is because their moms are 16 feet. They've got to be able to reach the milk somehow, so they've adapted to be able to be really, really tall when they're born. These specifically are Maasai giraffes. They're one of the more vulnerable species of giraffe. As of a few weeks ago, there are officially 4 giraffe species that have been described. Before we always assumed that there were multiple distinct species, but they've never been scientifically described. And now they have. Like I mentioned, these are Maasai. They're one of the more vulnerable species of giraffe. The way that the Wildlife Alliance is helping protect their native habitat is by providing assistance with local wildlife conservation organizations to build bioreserves for these giraffes to not only protect them from predators, but also humans specifically. They are highly poached. One of the easiest ways you yourself are able to help the side giraffe and all the other giraffe species is going to wildwatchkenya.org. From time to time, they have pictures, videos, and live feeds, and they have links to other projects and resources as well. From time to time, they do have live cameras where you yourself are able to volunteer to identify new giraffes on those cameras, so we can keep track of their growing population. We've got two things going on either side of the tram. If we keep looking on the left-hand side, we see my favorite antelope species. See that? It's that orangish, large antelope species with those spiralized horns. Those are Patterson's elands. They don't look like much, but I think they're really, really cool. They're the largest antelope species, like I mentioned. They can go up to about 2,000 pounds. They, because they have that really large size, they had two adaptations specifically to manage their body heat. They have a really thin coat that helps them shed a little bit, but also they have a flap of skin on their neck called a dewlap. Kind of works as a radiator in a car. They pump their blood through that. Since it's further away from the body, the blood can cool down and then it gets recirculated. On the right-hand side of the tram, though, there's also a really cool species. On the left-hand side of the habitat, under those trees near the feeders, these are called Somali wild ass. They may look like donkeys to you, but in fact they're not. Granted, they're from the same genus, but they are separate species. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier with the Gemsbok, they have those follow me marks. These guys do as well, but they've got those nice striping on their legs. So it might be a little hard to tell from here. These Somali wild ass are critically endangered. There's only about 200 individuals left in their native habitat. The reasoning behind that is poaching, and there's a lot of human conflict going on. So unfortunately their population has gone to that point. In the 1990s, when they were first brought to the US, there were only 8 individuals in human care. The safari park had half of them. Since then, their populations have continued to grow in human care. However, the safari park still maintains the largest herd. At this point, there's no plan to reintroduce them to their native habitat. Like I mentioned, there is that conflict in poaching. It's not necessarily beneficial to release them if they're not going to be able to grow their populations on their own. However, there is a stallion in there. So hopefully in the near future, we'll have some babies. And maybe down the line, we'll be able to reintroduce them. It's just not the plan right now. We'll keep going though. We got lots more to see. I am going to turn off my mic because it gets pretty loud on this hill with the engine. But definitely keep an eye out on the left-hand side of the tram. We may be able to see some clever rhinos.
Nakatago sila. Oo nga, no, rhino.
I can see the I can see them. I can see their gray body and their tail. Zebra. Zebra. Sinangga ako sa pipulira.
Ay, zebra. There, below.
There's only one.
Only one. Zebra. Zebras are Brazilian.
Picture agad the zebra lake, okay?
11 minutes.
Ah, hindi na tayo meron na sa... Minutes ka pa nga na sa video.
Tita, kasi pinatay ko sa one. Look, water. Lalagay ko nga lang tubig ito mamaya.
Bakit ko na lang mamaya?
Bakit na meron?
Saturday. Kahit yung GT Cruise ko meron din.
Yung
I'm
white
going to
rhino
pause this
wala
right
na.
here real quick. We
Oh,
get great
extinct
views on
na.
either side of
na.
the
Hindi
tram.
pa extinct yung
On
rhinos
the
yet.
right-hand
Ah,
side of
meron
the
pa?
tram, this
Sa
is
Africa?
our African forest
Sa Africa?
habitat.
Oh.
You don't see
namatay nila
anybody.
yung last.
That's pretty typical.
Hindi, namatay na. Wala na daw.
They are forest-dwelling species, so they're much more comfortable living amongst the foliage in their habitat, and they're also great camouflagers. Keep your eyes peeled, you may see someone, but if not, pretty typical. However, on the left-hand side of the tram, we're going to get a great overview of what we just saw through this point in the tour. This is a great overview of the Africa Plains. The Africa Plains alone equals about 100 acres. You could essentially fit an entire San Diego Zoo in the Africa Plains.
Wala na.
In total, the
Kasi
Safari
yung
Park is
dalawa,
1,800
female.
acres. Half
So,
of it is
wala,
dedicated
hindi
to
na
the
sila
wildlife
makakapag-produce
area,
ng
and the
na male.
other half is dedicated
White.
to our bio
White
reserve.
rhino.
May extinct na sila?
Oh, kasi wala na male eh.
We are now entering the
Only female na lang
southwest
natira.
hub on the right-hand side of the tram. It doesn't
Papa,
look
paano sila
much
namatay,
different
poaching?
than what we've been seeing so far.
Hindi kasi sa
or what our
Africa,
communities look like,
inahunt yung mga yun.
plant-wise.
Sa
That's
poaching
because we're in the southwest hub right now. It encompasses San Diego County. San Diego County's specific ecosystem is called the California coastal sage scrub. It is the second most threatened ecosystem in the United States, behind the Hawaiian rainforest, with only about 15% of the native plant species left.
Ayun na, ayun na.
Rhino.
I do see some rhinos. This is exciting. We haven't been this good in view all day. I'll pause a little bit further up. These are two male southern white rhinos.
They're male.
Their names are Arthur and Moezi.
Hindi, mga rhino yan.
Just by
Yung
themselves,
white.
growing up, learning how to be adult males, and
Dami
then
naman species ng
hopefully
rhino.
at some point they'll get reintroduced into the ladies, but right now it's just the two of them intermingling with the wildebeest and the zebra that are a little bit closer to them as well. Right next to the cab, I'll pull a little bit further, we also will be able to see some Uganda cob that they spend their time with.
Oh, you may look up.
Southern white rhinos are the only rhino species that is not endangered.
Sayang walang anak. Lion.
There are about 10,000 individuals left, however their populations are
Lion
declining.
nakakulong.
The reasoning behind that is many people believe that their horns have medicinal purposes, but in reality they're just made of keratin, same thing that your hair and nails are made out of. If you want to touch your hair, touch your nails. If you're brave, touch your neighbors. Congratulations, you just touched your rhino horn. One of the easiest ways you yourself are able to assist in rhino conservation is by spreading the word, letting people know, your friends, your family, people in your community, that they don't serve any medicinal purpose. It might not seem by much, but just that tiny step helps us preserve all the rhino species. Now, we got distracted with the rhinos. I'm going to get back to the Southwest Hub for just a moment. As I mentioned, there's only 15% of the native plant species left in San Diego County. One of the easiest ways you are able to assist in preserving those 15% of species is by planting, if you have a backyard, planting native plant species in your own backyard. If not, finding a local community garden that focuses specifically on native plants. The Safari Park focuses on many conservation projects within the Southwest Hub. The most notable is going to be the California Breeding Program. In the 1980s, there were only 22 individuals left in the wild. The Safari Park was given permission to bring those individuals in, and since then, around 200 have been born at the Safari Park alone, and about half of them have been reintroduced to the wild. And so thanks to the Safari Park, the zoo, and other partner organizations, their population is continuing to grow in the wild, and there are around 500 individuals left through their native range in California, Arizona, and Mexico. I saw a really cool species a little bit further up, so we'll pause for just a moment. You'll be able to see that dark cattle. Those are Cape buffalo.
Oh, buffalo.
Dark cow?
I mentioned camouflage a little bit earlier.
No.
Buffalo don't
Hindi
camouflage.
sabi niya dark.
That's not their goal with the color of their coat. They want to stand out in their environment. that dark coating kind of tells their predators, don't mess with me, it's not going to end well for you. They have that, so they have that dark coat to really stand out. These guys are one of the most dangerous species in all of Africa.
Sinosok yun ni
You might
Ethan.
expect it to be from a predator, but in fact, it is a prey species. Right next to the hippo. Definitely don't want to mess with them.
Oh, Mama.
They exhibit this really interesting behavior called mobbing. It's kind of what it suggests. They mob their predators, the whole herd. And then they're able to successfully fend them off. That's why their horns look the way they do. You may be able to notice they curve up their necks to prevent each other from poking each other in the eye when they are exhibiting that behavior. And they do meet at the top of their head, and it kind of works as a helmet as well. This herd of Cape buffalo has accepted a bachelor herd of Nile lechwe. Unfortunately, we can't really get a good look at them right now. But over the span of about a year, these Nile lechwe kind of forced their way into the Cape buffalo herd. And like I said, it took about a year, but the buffalo accepted them in, and they have a mutually beneficial relationship. The buffalo offer protection because they do have such a strong herd structure that they're very protective of each other. So they're able to protect the lechwe, but also the lechwe kind of act as a sparring partner for the young Cape buffalo. I don't know about you, but I'd rather spar with someone my own size than someone that's like quadruple my size. I don't think that'd be a fun time. We do have to keep going though, unfortunately. I could keep talking about buffalo for hours. I do want to point out though on the right side of the tram, this little hill. This is called Amani Point. May not look like much to you, but it is a small landmark here at the safari park. This is where our founder, Dr. Charles Schroeder, brought his colleagues and the board members of the San Diego Zoo all the way back in the mid-60s and pitched his idea for the safari park. You could imagine being up on top of that hill, you get a great overview of the San Pasqual Valley. So without Amani Point, we might not be here today, similar to how we might not be here without you all. I want to thank everybody for coming to one of the 2 front doors of the San Diego Zoo conservation efforts around the world. I do want to thank you personally. I have worked in animal care. I was a marine mammal trainer. I worked in wildlife rescue as well. And now I get to be a wildlife educator. So I appreciate you coming on this tour and letting me yap about some cool wildlife in our care for the past 25 minutes. If you learned something, that's great. If you just had fun and saw some cool wildlife, that's good with me too. We're almost done. However, on the right-hand side of the tram, we'll be able to see our East African habitat. There's quite a few species out here, but the giraffe are the ones that are closest to us. This is a different herd of giraffe. Maybe able to notice one of them's kind of munching on one of the palm trees. Palm trees are not a part of their regular diet. They get fed multiple times a day. However, the palm trees, their bark kind of has a sugary flavor to it. It's really sweet. So they like to munch on the bark. So you can see some of the palm trees, either they're missing their bark fully, or they have some netting wrapped around them. However, I can see that she's still trying to get through that netting. And she'll be there for quite a while. Alright y'all, our tour is unfortunately over. As we come around the corner, I'll have everybody stay seated until I come to a complete stop on the dock. Once I do come to that stop, everyone on the right-hand side of the tram, I'll have you reach over the door and push the black knob forward and your door will open. Everyone on the left-hand side of the tram, please don't do that. You're entering into an active roadway. And I don't want anything happen to anybody. It wouldn't be a good idea. But once again, my name is Lainey. I've been your driver and guide for the past 25 minutes. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will be in front of the cab and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you for coming to Africa Tram.